Penny, are you there? Are you able to hear me? Penny, I can't hear you. Hemant, are you there?
Yes, Patel.
Okay, all right. All right, see, Penny, are you there?
Yes, I'm back.
Okay, wonderful. All right. See, guys, so sometimes we do some silly mistakes which will make us to struggle. Right. So always remember, it is really important for you to, whenever it is importing, right, you just need to keep a watch on that. Okay. So there would be some other classes also which will have the same name, right? So there is a reporter. The reporter is also, I mean, reporter is coming from this guy, as well as the reporter is coming from some other guy as well. So what I did is I just cleared this, whatever we tried copy to the base class, I just removed all that and then quickly tried doing it once again. And I was really watchful this time, right? So I've imported the proper imports now. So then see, nothing, there is no issue at all. Okay, so you need to be little careful. Okay, so now let me just run this now. Now things are working. Okay, so I did not do anything. Okay, by the way, I just did all the steps, whatever we copied from the test case to this guy, I just did it once again. Okay, so now things started working. Yeah. So the test that we were starting, right, that was a problem. That was a culprit, right? That's why it was not even starting the test. So you should not kind of get, demotivated. Okay, so always some of the times like the failure is assertion failure, by the way. Okay, so if there's a failure, try to find the root cause and try to fix it. It's not an exam anyways, right? It's not that we have to close it in 3 hours or 4 hours. Let us try to debug, find it. So that will give you a different kind of satisfaction altogether. Now let me just do this now. I was wondering, why this is not working, and this is a same thing I've been teaching so many batches now. Okay, so web browser. Can you see it now? So what is happening here? This is the report. So see, this is where all our problems started, because we were using some write logs and all that, right? So this is all the whatever we wrote before the test cases actually started. All these things went here. See, insert the store data, all this, all the logs. And then once the login 001 has started, this is where it is. Now login 001 is failed. And when the entire exception was there, see, all the entire exception is also there in the report, right? And then login 002 is passed. So that is proper. So now see here, out of 2 tests, 1 passed, 1 failed. Correct? So it will show you 1 fail, 1 pass, right? Which is a failed one, this is a failed one. Right? And even in the steps wise also, it will show you the details. In the dashboard, if you see, it will show you the consolidated total test 3. Why it is showing as 3? 1 test always is extra because this is, initializing the suit. This will be extra. This is 1 test case, this is 1 test case, this is 1 test case. If you don't want to do that, then, you whatever write logs which are there before even actually the test case starts, you can comment that out. Then it will work. Okay. So now if you see in the report, it's showing as 3 steps 20, and this is a time it has taken 33 seconds. What is failed, what is passed. Okay, you can see that, toggle it and see that as well. Is it clear, guys? So unfortunately, it has given some challenge. That's okay. So now you can see only the passed ones. Okay. In this test case, there's no passed one. In this test case, there's no passed one. Whereas in this test case, there's a passed one. Clear this and then say pass. This is passed. In this test case, you want to see whatever has failed. Say failed ones. It will give you not passed one. Sorry, failed one. Failed one is what? This guy. What is a failed one? Maybe this one. Yeah, this is a failed one. Right, so it will give you the failed one. So you can filter it out also. So if you want to search for a particular test, you can search here as well. So you can just say here login 001 or whatever it is. Underscore 001. See, dynamically it will only give you that particular test case details. All right. So nothing magic. Okay. So it is just that, the imported class was wrong. We did not even see there, unfortunately. Okay. So now everything is proper. Now one more view. Okay. Now can you see here, Penny, you wanted to see this report, right? How it looks, when we basically use, maybe let me refresh this. See here. Yeah, this is what it is. This is how it looks now. Can you see this, Penny, now?
Yeah, I can see it.
This is how, with respect to our test cases, you can see everything with respect to our test cases one by one, you will see. And this is what management wants. This is what absolutely they are looking for. Some dashing, good looking reports. Always remember, management goes by reporting and numbers. That's it. Okay. Is this clear to all of you? Whatever we discussed, I just integrated that with our framework now. Everything will start basically fetching from the framework now. Penny, is that clear to you? Penny?
Yes, clear.
Okay.
Read
Yes. Hemant, is that clear to you? Hemant.
Okay.
Yes. Harsha?
Yeah, it's clear.
Okay. Mohan? Mohan, is it clear to you? So now,
Yes, it's clear.
wonderful. So now one great feature of this extent report is whenever there's a test case fail, right? It will also attach the screenshot as a part of the report. That is wonderful, right? So now how do you do that? There's just a one line code, right? So I'll just share you with that, right? So now see, whenever there's a test case fails, this is the, you need to be careful, whenever you import the stuff as well as copy that stuff. Okay, little careful. So now whenever the test case fails, so what you have to do now, you're capturing the screenshot. So when you're capturing the screenshot, what are you doing? You're basically writing to a physical location that is under this guy, right? So now what you can also do is, let me just delete that so that just to see that. Now it is writing the screenshots over here. So now what I'm trying to do is, I also want to write the screenshot to our TestNG report, extent report as well. So for that, what is the line of code? Just here, this is the line of code. What is this? I'm just saying here, I'm again writing it as log as fail. I'm writing the log as fail, but this time I'm saying here login 001 has failed or whatever it is. You can write any information here, the test case has failed. This is just the dummy string. Now here, this is the line of code. You can just say here, create screen capture from the path. What is a path? See, in the screenshot method, I'm saying destination, right? So this is my destination. This is what is a path. So you just have to give the absolute path of that. How do you get the absolute path? Just get absolute path. So this is one line of code that he has given here. I just took it from here only. I did not do anything. See here? So this is a line of code. Test fail, whatever extent test which is there fail that, and then capture the screenshot here with this code. So that is what is the code that I put here. Now with this failed ones, let us try to run this. So media entity builder, then this is a method. This is an inbuilt method again to capture the screenshot. Okay, let me just run this now. Let's see. So now what are we expecting here? We're expecting the failed test case screenshot also should be available inside the what your HTML report now. Let's see that. So this is the first test case. We're intentionally expecting it as false. That's why it has failed. Okay, so now here we are expecting this as true. This is true anyway, correct? So this is fine. Test case is over. So come to the test case 001 has failed, right? So according to us, in our results, it should have basically captured the screenshot for 001. See, this is captured. Now come to the extent report. Okay, so open with web browser. This is what it is. Okay, now see here. So this is a one failed, right? So just come here, see, it has attached the fail login 00. Whatever string you write, it'll, even if you don't write also, it's fine. Now see, it has attached the screenshot. Just enlarge it. See here. So what else you want? It is escape. If you press again, it will go away, right? So it is attaching the screenshot also along with the report. This is something very fascinating because this is exactly what your management or your managers would be looking for. Okay, so you have everything inside a report. What is the exception stack trace? That is also there. What is the status? Why it has failed? Screenshot is also there. Right? Everything is there. Correct. So you can just click and go back, or you click escape, it will go away. Okay. So see, the test case by name is failed. Okay, and then whatever you are writing here in the logs, that is writing here, and then it's saying as failed here. Okay, and then this is a screenshot that we attach, and then this is assertion. Earlier everything was there, only this guy was not there. Now that is also added. Okay, this is really a wonderful feature, believe me. This is why most of the people like this, because it has an excellent UI. Because in a dashboard and all, if you see, it'll give you clear indication how many tests are there, how many passed and how many failed. Out of 3, 2 passed, 1 failed, right? It will give you this. And it will give you step-wise summary also, how many passed, how many failed, steps-wise. Okay, in this, these many steps are there, right? And then test case-wise also it will give you. Everything it will give. And then for the failed ones, it will also give you the screenshot. Correct. So this is a really, really cool feature. Believe me, a really a cool feature. Okay. So that is why a lot of people, are using it. Thanks to this Anshul Arora, who has developed this, and believe me, a lot of enterprise level companies are also using this now. Okay. All right. I think that's about the extent report. Okay. So now we can move on to the next topic now, because we have spent enough time. Good thing is it has at least worked, again. Yeah. Otherwise it would have not left me to sleep peacefully. Anyways, any questions here, anybody? Penny, is that all clear to you now? You saw now how the report is looking?
Yeah, that's clear. It's very useful as well.
Right. It is very useful and very, for management, they would be very happy to see the reports like this. Yeah. Okay. How about you, Mohan? Is it clear to you?
Yes, that's clear. Yes.
Okay. Hemant? Hemant, is that all clear to you?
Oh, yes, Patel.
Okay. Harsha, is it clear to you?
Yeah, it's clear. Like one question, like if we have like anything is failed, like how to debug from, you have to come from last line, like where exactly how you fix it, like just what like,
See, I just saw
What's the
that,
root cause?
the moment the test case is started, at the rate before method was working, correct? So how I fixed it is, see, the moment it came to
Yeah.
this test case, that's when the problem was there, correct?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
before before running this method, at the rate before method is, that was working. But the moment
Yeah.
it came to the test, that's when it is failing. Then, the
Yeah.
moment the test comes, and then which method will be executed? On test start. I just went
Yeah.
there. On test start, I went there. Okay. And then on start, not on start, on test start. So this is where I went, right? And this is where I'm using this flush. And then I saw that extent, why this extent is not working here? Okay. So then I immediately saw there was a wrong import. Okay. So see, this extent we are importing here, right? See, this is extent test, right? This is extent is this. So this report was little wrong. This extent was some other thing was there. Then what I did, I just deleted that and imported it once again.
Okay.
You will see, for best thing for learning is put debuggers as much as possible, and then write system.out.println or write logs, so that you get to know exactly what is happening, where it is failing.
Yeah.
Okay, so the only thing I did is I just put a simple log here saying that just to check whether it is coming to this or not. I just put a system.out.println here just to check whether it's coming or not. It came here. Then after this line again I put one more system.out.println, and then it was not coming here. This is where it was failing. Then I was sure that this is the issue here. Ideally, you should basically put debuggers here like this, one by one. Okay. As and when you debug, you will learn.
Okay.
Ideally, whenever there's a failure, right? Maybe this is a failure. Here to here, there's a failure. What you do, you put a debugger here. Then you start here. It'll come here. You start debugging line by line. Come to next line. Come to next line. Or if you're sure that there's no problem here, directly don't put debugger here. Put debugger here and one more debugger here. From here, you can say F8. Directly, it'll come and stop here. Okay. So one by one, you have to, one by one line you have to run. That's when you get to know where was the issue.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. That is anyway not a big thing. Okay. So don't worry. You will get it right as and when you start learning it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So now going further, let us quickly discuss about two of the different framework approaches that we have today. Right. So far what we have learned about what you mean by an automation framework. We have seen that automation framework is nothing but organizing our automation, correct? Whatever is required for automation. So we are trying to organize all of that. That is what is automation framework is. Where are we keeping our, locators? Where are we keeping our, test data? Where are we keeping our, the results? Where are we keeping our screenshots? Where are all the framework level reusable code, test case level reusable code, all of this. And then at the finally, how are you running your test cases? Maybe for that you're using, TestNG for that, right? So organizing of your entire automation execution or automation activities is what people call it as automation framework. Okay. So there are different ways to achieve it. So one of the ways that we have chosen is whatever framework that we discussed till today, right? With TestNG, Maven, extent reporting, listeners, and all that you can consider it as a hybrid framework. Hybrid means everything is there. Everything is there. That's what is hybrid is. Everything is integrated. That's what is hybrid is, right? So if somebody asks you, can you explain your automation framework? So this is how you have to explain, okay? So what is that you have to explain? Imagine you go to an interview and the interviewer is asking you, so can you explain me what is the framework that you're using? Then you can tell, maybe something like this you need to begin. You can tell that, we are using a hybrid kind of a framework. And then he'll ask you, can you just explain me, how your framework works? Surely he will ask, people will ask you this. Then you can tell, so you start explaining like this. You can ask him, can I use your board? Okay, so take the board and go to the board and explain. Okay, or take a paper and then explain. You can explain it like this. Okay, so basically, ours is a hybrid framework, and we are using Maven basically as a dependency injection tool. So our project basically is a Maven project. Okay, so what we have done is so we have a pom.xml file wherein we mention all the dependencies which are required for our automation, right? So what are the dependencies usually that we use is our Selenium dependencies, TestNG dependencies, extent reporting, and then Log4j and all the POI jars. So these are the dependencies that we are using. Log4j is for writing the logs, POI is for reading the data from XLS, and then extent report is just for reporting purpose. Log4j is for writing the logs. Selenium is for UI automation. TestNG is actually used as a execution engine. This is what you need to mention. And then so our structure goes like this. You can tell here under source, we have a package called as com.selenium.base. This is where our base class is there. So in our base class, all the reusable code across the framework, like writing the results, writing the logs, capturing the screenshots, reading the Excel file, writing to the logs, writing to the results, everything is present over here. Okay, and even our driver is also instantiated over here in our before method. You need to tell like this. All the framework level reusable code is being put over here. So then what we have done is we have basically created a class for every module, right? You can say here for login. So I have a class here called as login.java. Okay, so then here, so we have put it as login.java, and all the login module test cases. In login, we have, let us say, 25 test cases. All the test cases are over here. We have put them as methods. We have put them as one by one methods. Okay, so and then similarly for all the different modules, we have different files. And then we also have a library com.selenium.library wherein all the test case level reusable code goes here. For example, login, logout, etc., etc. This is how you have to explain. And then we have a folder called as data. Here we keep all the locators data, and then test data, and then the config data wherein we will mention the browsers and all that. So then you have a results folder wherein you have the results, logs, and etc. Then extent report HTML is also there. Then we have a screenshots folder here wherein the screenshot is captured. So then we are using TestNG as a execution engine. It's a unit testing framework. We are using that, and we are making use of all the annotations of TestNG, like @ test is the main one, and then we use @ before suit, after suit, and all that. We've also implemented the TestNG listeners, which will take care of getting us the runtime data, right? So you need to tell that as well. And then we are using TestNG, and then finally Maven is our build tool or the dependency injection tool, and we just run. Initially we run using Maven, and then from there onwards we can whenever there's no version change, we can just use the TestNG and then keep running whatever we want. So this is how you have to explain. Okay, I maybe went really fast here, but this is how you have to explain if somebody asks you to explain your framework. Then they will be happy. If you simply tell I'm using hybrid framework, then what is hybrid, you need to tell, right? And in the sense you have to exactly explain the flow. See, I usually ask whenever somebody comes to Intel, I'll ask so when you run a test case, for example, in automated framework, if you just want to run one test case, tell me what all happens from the beginning to end. This is what I ask. If they're able to tell this is what happens, right? What happens in the on start, on finish, on test starts, on before method, after method, right? So that means they have understood everything. That's what is the meaning. So can you try to remember this and explain this when somebody is asking you to explain what automation framework are you using for your project? This is what you need to explain. Okay, so believe me, we have spent enough time now, almost 2 weeks. We have only been talking only on this hybrid framework, including Log4j, TestNG, and all that. Okay, so whatever I explained now for the past 10 minutes, is that clear to you? Will you be able to talk like that in the interview when somebody asks you to explain your framework?
Yes, 100%.
Mohan,
Yep.
Mohan, is that
Yep.
clear to
Yes.
you? Okay,
Yeah.
Harsha.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
And Penny, is that clear to you?
Yes, that's clear.
Wonderful. And Hemant, is that clear to you? The entire framework, whatever we discussed. Hemant.
Yes.
Okay. So whatever we learned so far is why it is called as hybrid, because it's a mixture, right? We are using all that stuff together. That's why it's a hybrid. That's why it is hybrid. That's it. Okay. So now let us go one step further. There are some other framework approaches that some companies were using. I would say they are not using that now, right? Nobody is using these terms, but just you need to know, good to know kind of a stuff. So one of the approach is called as a data-driven testing, data-driven framework. So basically, this is an approach. See, what is automation framework? As I told you, all the stuff that is required for organizing your automation results, locator, data, screenshots, reusable code in the test case, all of that put together, what makes you a framework? That's it. Okay. How are you managing your automation execution? That is a framework. How are you managing your automation activities without any intervention? You should be able to run your entire suite. That is what is automation framework is. Now the approach that we have chosen is a hybrid approach. That's why we are calling it as a hybrid framework. There's another framework that people call it as a data-driven framework or data-driven approach, I would say. See, as the name itself indicates, what is data-driven? Data-driven means, imagine you same login page itself. If you take username is there, password is there, right? Now you want to test the username with 20 different sets of data. You want to test the password with say 20 different sets of passwords. That means your test is predominantly driven by data, correct? So you're doing the same test, but this is with different sets of data, correct? So this is what people call it as data-driven testing. Only thing is, see, what are we doing now in our framework? We are just doing a happy kind of a path. That means you enter a valid username, enter a valid password, go here, and then see whether you logged in or not, then create a customer, create a project, etc., continue. But what if you want to test the login page itself with 20 different credentials or users? That time, our framework will work. Why? Because we are using something called as a data provider. We have discussed it. The moment you use data provider, that's it. Whatever number of users, whatever number of amount of data you want to use, it can support you, right? So data-driven kind of approach is already supported by in our framework with the help of data providers. Okay. But in case, imagine that you're not using data providers, right? How do you do that? Then you have to have 20 different sets of users, 20 different set of passwords, right? So that type of approach is what is people are calling it as data-driven testing, wherein your testing is predominantly driven by different sets of data. Now, how to do this? I'll just give you one simple example. I don't want to explain this too much, because if you know what is data-driven, that's sufficient, because nobody would like to use it once we have TestNG data providers, once you already know how to read the data from Excel and all that, right? Now just see here, I'm explaining you the approach that is people following it in the data-driven framework. Okay, so now see here, what is data-driven framework approach? Data-driven framework is an approach of framework wherein our testing is predominantly driven by data. Remember that. Now see, I have a test data here. I have a test data here, correct? So now what is this test data doing now? This test data, I have a username and password. I don't want to enter one username and one password. I want to enter 20 users and 20 passwords. So say 10 users and 10 passwords just to test with. Now, how do I do that? So do I need to give username 1, username 2, username 3 like that? You can do that, but that's a very vague way of doing it, right? It's not proper. You cannot keep declaring 20 variables, right? So what you do here is, usually what I was doing earlier is maybe something like this, just as a delimiter, right? And then add one more here, like this. Keep on adding whatever number of users that you want, separate by some delimiter, 1, 2, 3, 4, say 5. So now what I've done here, I put 5 usernames. Similarly, I will put 5 passwords here. I'm just putting the valid ones, right? Maybe depending on the scenario, you can put 3, 4, 5. So 5 username, 5 password I have put. I will read the file only once. I'll take this. But when I take this as a test data, the whole thing I will get it. When I take this as a test data, I will get it as a whole thing. Correct, right? I will get it as a whole thing. So now we will be little careful here, because we have already used hash earlier, right? When we split, That's why let us use a different delimiter here. Otherwise, it will mess up. Okay, so I will use what? I will use maybe say dollar. Right? Instead of hash, I'm using dollar here because hash is something that we have already used. Dollar, right? I should not have used hash here because we have already used hash in our logic to split, right? Page name and all that. Yesterday we have seen that. That's it. So now we have 5 usernames and 5 passwords. So now what I'll do here is come to your test case. So we are going to use which approach now? Data-driven approach. So I got the username, I got the password. Now this username is not just one. What is there in the username? This whole stuff is there. In the password, we have whole stuff. So now what we have to do, we just have to split it. That's it. So what we'll do now here is just see here. I will just say here username dot split. You remember split that we discussed earlier when we discussed about the string functions? Using the dollar, I will split it. When I split this whole string, this is what is the string that you're going to get now. Okay, remember that. For your understanding, I'll just keep it here. So when you split it using dollar, you will get this. All using dollar, everything got split now. When you split anything, you will get an array. Remember, when you split a string, you'll get a string array. I will say here users, something like this. Similarly, split the passwords also. Passwords is equal to password.split. You got multiple usernames and multiple passwords now. That's it. So now what you have to do here, this is a test case, you want to loop it now. That's it. Again and again, you have to loop it. Correct? So what you'll do now, you will just say here that for int I is equal to 0, I is less than. Remember, when you split something, you get an array, right? Users dot length I plus plus. See, the same thing could have been achieved using our data provider. Okay, so now I'm starting here, right? Comes here, everything fine. Once this is done, once assertion is done, then what you're doing, you close it. So what is a username here? First time is user, you're using username and password, right? You are not supposed to use the username and passwords like this. Okay, so what you have to use here is, where is the users? Users is here, passwords is here. Okay, yeah. So now, so what you have to do now? Users of I, username. What is the username? Users of I. What is the password? Password is passwords of I. That's it. Correct, right? So it will enter the username, enter the password, go to the login page over here, and then click on the login to active time. It comes here and checks whether the OK button is clicked, and after that it is verifying whether the logout link is there or not. After that logout link is verified, then it is writing result as pass. Basically, it's written as true here. Right? You're writing it as true. Once this is done, so don't forget to click on the logout link, okay? Otherwise, because again, you have to enter the username and enter the password, right? Because now it is not run using data provider. Once it comes here, everything it will do inside this only. So you have to basically click on the logout link. Don't forget to do that, right? So just see here, I will just say driver.findelement by.xpath this guy dot click. So why I'm clicking? Because again, I want to run the same thing with the different data. What is the next data now? Next data would be the next username, next password, like this. Are you getting it here? See, ultimately what I'm doing is I'm repeating these steps with these users and these passwords. What is the password? This password. So this kind of approach is what people call it as the data-driven framework, data-driven framework approach. So you read the data once, split that, keep running your test using multiple sets of data. The same thing would have achieved using the your data provider as well. Okay, so now I will only run this now just to check whether it's working or not. Okay. Okay, is the concept clear to all of you? What is data-driven testing, or what is a data-driven approach? Is that clear to you? And how are we
that's
here?
clear.
Can you see here username and password? Can you see here? Yeah.
Yeah. One question I have.
Yes.
What is the need to split our users and passwords here?
See what
Because
is happening. Yeah.
Giving as a map, is it?
No, it is basically going to get this as a string, whole string. Now this is a complete string, right? So now what
Okay.
I want to do, I want to test with this user and this password, this user and this password, like that. Okay. So now I
Okay.
want to get all the users. So what I'm doing, I'm splitting this with dollar. So when I split this dollar, wherever dollar is there, it will split that. That means this will become one, this will become one, this will become one, this will become one, like that. So this whole thing will come as an array now.
Okay. Okay.
When
Fine.
you split a string
Yeah.
with any delimiter, you get a string array.
Okay. Can't we do it in a different way where, like, you have the same approach, like key and value, and you take it from that directly, like username is your key and.
So now see, we already have built in this, right?
Okay.
This is,
Fine.
we have decided that we are going to use Excel as our data store, right?
Okay.
We're
Fine.
storing the data
Right.
here. So now again, if you come out of that, then again, you have tried a different approach altogether.
Correct.
You can see, okay, let me tell you, good that you asked this, Mohan. So no book or no theory will tell that, you have to use Excel for storing the, locators. You have to use only properties file for storing the locators. You can, you use only the text file for storing the locators. So, or you use only hash map, as a key and value pair store the locators. No theory or no book will tell this. It is just the various ways of, you can use a JSON, you can use XML, you can use, simply you just write a property file. In the property file only store. Anyway, Java has inbuilt support for properties, right? So there are multiple ways to do a similar thing. Now, whether you want to use hash map, whether you want to store it in Excel, whether you want to write it in a simple text file or a properties file, that is the approach that you have to decide as an architect of the framework. Okay. So why we have chosen Excel here? Because ultimately, see, if you ask me, I would not choose Excel, believe me, because Excel is a little slow. And if you're running it on Mac, it doesn't work. Excel doesn't support that, right? So, but because most of the users are Windows, and then assuming that this is used by manual testers, I'm okay to use Excel. Okay. So otherwise, I would be happy to store it as a JSON file. Believe me, key and value pair as a JSON, which I'll anyway tell you how to use JSON, right? But again, so nowhere it will be mentioned that whether to use this or that. These are different approaches. Now, how you are going to prepare tea? See, you have to prepare tea. How you are going to prepare tea? Whether you want to add milk and water or water and milk, put tea powder first, put sugar first. You use this brand tea powder, whether you use this brand tea powder, nobody will tell all that. So there is a procedure. So which procedure you want to follow, you follow, whichever suits you, right? So it is like that. Because we already have a framework in our code, we have a capability to read the data from Excel. Then I just want to capitalize that. That's it. That's why I'm using this approach. Otherwise, any approach you can use. Make sense, Mohan?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's right.
This is just an approach, okay? So don't think that always you have to use Excel. No, it's up to you. See, instead of writing another new test case altogether, I already had a test case. Here we are already fetching the data. I just wanted to show you the data-driven approach. That's why I just split it and use it. Otherwise, I had to store all the data into again another hash map and all. Correct? You can do that, but nobody would stop you.
Yeah,
see, ultimately, what is required is you should know how to use hash map. You should know how to read the Excel file. You should know how to read the JSON. You should know how to read the XML file. You should know how to read the properties file. Now, which one suits best to your project is something that you can take the call and then go by that approach. When you design the framework, you can go by that approach, right? But when you choose this is approach, you stick to that approach. That's what it is. Make sense? Okay. All right. So now let us try to run this now.
This
Yes,
admin dollar and all, like this is a different users, right? Like admin dollar.
Yes.
Admin dollar.
See, admin dollar. I'm splitting it using dollar. When you split using dollar, all this will come as array.
Yeah. Instead of we can give different users also, like users and.
Yeah. I am just giving only one user now.
Okay. No, because that's only I understood here. Yeah.
Correct. Data-driven testing itself is to test with different sets of data. Here we have only one data. See, imagine that, correct. Imagine that, you have created 20 users. You want to test whether all the 20 users can be logged in or not. We can keep all the 20 users username and password.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
So let us try this.
We have to use dollar only? This one?
You can use any delimiter here. Now, why I'm using dollar here is because if you see here, this guy, which is preparing the data from the map, right? So if you see here, we use this approach, right? See, dollar is already used here. to join. You remember yesterday we were
Yeah,
joining
yeah.
page name and locate. That's why I just
Yes,
not
yes.
using hash.
Okay.
Any delimiter you can use. Don't
Okay.
use any text. Okay, don't use admin and then a here a. If you use
Yeah.
here, a is here also, right?
Yes, yes.
Use some special character which can be used as a delimiter for splitting.
Okay.
Okay. Let us run this. I mean, let us see whether it is running 5 times or not. Okay, that's what we wanted to see, right? So yeah, let us run this. So see, it is not going to create 5 results now. It's only going to create 1 result because we are not using the data driven approach. Okay, I mean, we are not using the data provider. Once it comes to this test, we are repeatedly running this code multiple times. That's it. Right, now let us see here what happens. So ultimately, what is data driven testing? Data driven testing is your testing is predominantly driven by data. That's what it is. That's data driven testing. Now see here. So we have, oh, sorry, something wrong we have done. See, everything it has entered. Okay, so why it is not splitting? Okay, so yeah, now it will fail. It has entered everything. What is the mistake that we have done? Users is array. They have split it using $, but why is it not able to split? Let us see what is the mistake. So system.out.println. Good thing that we are able to learn many things today. Password. Username dot splitter with respect to $, right? And then it should have basically given this to you, right? System.out.println arrays dot toString. I just want to see how it is looking. Okay. Similarly, I just want to see how the passwords are looking after splitting them as array. I'm just printing here. That's it. Split. Okay. Let's see now. What is it printing? With that, we'll get to know why it is not splitting. So again, the same problem here. Okay, let us run this as a suit. We cannot run it as a test case. Okay. We cannot run it as a test case. Now we have to run it as a suit. Let us see now.
Here also we need to import anything. Nothing.
See, always remember the moment you use extent report, you have to run it as a whole suit. Okay. So now what is happening here? Just see here what is happening. It is printing this as a username, correct? This is printing this as a password. And after I split, it is not splitting. Why it is not splitting? It's a delimiter that we are using here. Okay, $, is what we are using, right? Okay, let us try to use. I got it. What is the problem here? Good that we are facing these kind of challenges here today. Instead of $, let me use a different, delimiter. Okay, so I'm using, say, exclamatory. Let us try this. Okay, why not $? Let us see. I'll tell you why not $. If dollar is not, if this is working, then we will see, why $, is not working. Okay, so same thing, right? Let me run this now. Always run it as a suit. We are taking the data, reading the data, everything, and then we have gone to the before method. Here it should give us the data. Okay, so now the data here that we get here. Okay, now can you see here? This is admin, this is manage. Okay, manager is not splitted. Admin got split, manager is not split. Oh, manager, we have not split. Okay, this is our mistake. So why we are not, okay, see admin, it is entered now. Okay, so good lesson learned. So don't use dollar. Why not dollar? I'll tell you. Because where is the username we have split, and this guy we are still petty using exclamation. Right, so now everything is done. Close this. Okay, and over. Done this. See, so when you actually run, that's when you get to know. So why not dollar? Can anybody tell me why maybe dollar is not supported here? Just think and tell me. Do you remember when we write
dollar
a
also we are using some special keyword, right? We are using dollar also.
just to think, you remember about the nested classes that we discussed? You remember nested classes where when you write a class within a class, when you compile the code, okay, so there was some mistake there, right? So maybe it has entered too quick, right? But at least three different sets of data we were able to test it. Okay, so what I'm trying to tell you here is when you write a class within a class in Java, that is called as a nested class, right? So you have outer class here, then you write an inner class here, right? When you compile this and save this, it will save the outer class as outer class.java dot class. When you compile it, it will generate a dot class file. So similarly, for the inner one, nested one, it will say outer dollar inner dot class. Do you remember that I discussed this with you earlier, Penny? Do you remember this? How the inner classes are saved?
No, not really. I can't remember the aspect of the dollar sign.
Dollar sign is there, right?
Right.
Correct. So that is why it's a inbuilt character used by Java. That is why you're not supposed to give that. Okay. So that is a character which already Java considers, right? So don't use dollar. Don't use dollar as a delimiter. When you're especially dealing with the strings, don't use it. Okay. You can use hash. Ideally, most of the people use hash, right? And hash we have already used. That's why I'm using exclamatory here. That's it. Any character you can use other than dollar. Other than dollar and other than underscore, you use anything. Best thing to use is what, hash, or other than that, hyphen. You can use hyphen, dash. Okay. So it is taking it as a inbuilt character. That's why you're not supposed to use it. Okay. Java treats it as a special character. That's why don't use it. Use the dollar. Use the any other characters. Okay. So is that clear to you now? What is the data-driven approach? Is that clear to you? Penny, is that clear to you?
Yes, that's clear.
Wonderful. Kamesh is not there. Harsha, is that clear to you?
Yeah, it's clear.
Mohan, is that clear to you?
Yes, that's clear. Yeah.
Okay. And Hemant, is that clear to you?
Yes, Patil, but can you just give us an example, like where it's like more appropriate than the hybrid approach?